Revisiting the towns of the Kanto region in the postgame is depressing, and I don't like it. We had so much to do last time we went through these towns, but now we're left with the quiet comprehending of the ending of it all. There it is again, that funny feeling. Hello, I'm Mothy, Jimothy for long. Today, I'm visiting all of the Kanto towns and cities in the postgame and ranking them all based on the level of existential dread that they grow in the shadows of my heart. Pokemon games have an open-ended postgame to allow the player to battle their friends and complete their Pokédex. But after the first time through, there's no reason to interact with 90% of the game world. Trainers you've beat still stand there saying, "I tried my best," and gym leaders stand there broken and defeated. But like a weary widow, I carried through my fears to revisit the cities of Kanto and share with you my desolate feelings. We're doing this in yellow version, by the way, because the ways the color palette changes for each town is a big contributor to the vibe. And last thing, if you end up enjoying this style of video, let me know. A lot of my content is highly technical, but this one is an experiment into some more creative work. And if you do end up liking the video and want to give me a like, that will help heal the psychic damage that I took making this sad boy video. Okay, let's get into it. There's no reason not to begin in Pallet Town, whose slogan is, "Shades of your journey await." We're greeted by a warm wash of soft purple with turquoise lowlights. It's a warm hug. Pallet Town tastes like jelly beans and sweet tarts. Immediately, these dancing flowers and the familiar townswoman walking around give a feeling of life and comfort. But contrast that with that feeling of mixed nostalgia and regret of coming back home and finding it surprisingly unchanged. It makes you feel some guilt for pausing your hometown in time as you left to pursue your life path. Let's say hi to our mom. She is happy to see us, of course, but she still has that sad movie on TV of 4 boys walking along the railroad tracks. We can head upstairs and play some Super Nintendo to escape from the world for a bit. Hiding in my room, safe within my womb, I touch no one and no one touches me. But we give it up after a very short gaming session because it just doesn't hit the same. What business does a Pokemon champion have playing video games? Professor Oak is still around, and the flurry of research activity around his lab does help me feel like life goes on. Outside, we've got a little inlet giving some natural pleasantry. I bet it's actually a little swampy around here and kind of gets mosquito heavy in the warm months. We're home on break, just letting the fan blow on us because mom never paid for air conditioning. Pallet Town is plenty cozy. The music is perfect for the start of our journey, not hectic. It lets us move at our own pace. But coming back here is a stark difference after our adventures beating the Elite Four, and it's hard to find purpose in continuing the game after being sent from Lance directly to this. I took a walk around the world to ease my troubled mind and ended up in Viridian City, the eternally green paradise. I mean, the thought of eternity is a little scary, but we do love greenery. Let's let it cook. Nature and trees are one of the best ways to feel grounded with connection to the planet and the universe. I adore the cozy little nature path behind this cut bush. It has no functional purpose, it's just aesthetic and cozy. I would absolutely take walks here and probably use this little corner as a spot to read, maybe smoke. Viridian City has a lot of these weird, long, horizontal ledges dividing the city into strata. It's like their map ended up bigger than their plans for content, and they had to ruin a lot of the space in order to make it feel smaller. And they kind of succeeded. These divisions cause me to notice the emptiness, but they do have the effect of making it a little more engaging to walk around, which is nice. Viridian City has one of the best music tracks as well. It's hopeful and unhurried, and the light green color scheme does bring a sense of peace. I think I like this little life. This silly little life. I don't want to put too much emphasis on the gyms in each city since they are all kind of off and empty, but this one's weird in that the guy outside is really jazzed that Giovanni has finally returned, except that Giovanni actually disappeared again a day after returning and nobody has noticed yet. These poor trainers don't have a daddy. This man in the Pokemart says the city sells a ton of Paralyze Heal, which is either a laundering operation or people are getting high on recreational Paralyze Heals because the only way anybody's getting paralyzed around here is from a 5% encounter rate Pikachu in Viridian Forest landing a lucky Thundershock. Then this isn't really part of Viridian City, but these two structures on Route 2 are probably in the Viridian City tax district. I can't fathom what this structure is supposed to be, but with the tables and being surrounded by greenery, it gives the vibe of one of those pavilions they always have at community parks where families set up their cookouts and there's always a bunch of wasp nests, just a whole lot of wasps. And that's a pretty cozy vibe. Viridian City has that warm green summer feel. It loses points for me because it's still close to the melancholy of home, and there's really not much to do besides huff Paralyze Heals for brain damage, but it is peaceful and warm. Pewter City is a stone gray city. No commentary on the strengths or purpose of the town, just an objective statement about the color. It is ugly here, but not offensive ugly, just gray, Soviet. Makes me wonder why I bothered getting a Game Boy Color. But ugly is not the same thing as existential dread. Pewter City has a lot of these cute jiggly flowers that I'm a sucker for. They do make the place feel warm. And speaking of Jiggly, this is the best Poke Center in the game thanks to a singing Jigglypuff feature. Pewter City has some rough edges, literally. The walls are less straight than Viridian, so there's a little more character here. The museum is a fun attraction, so we can spend a little time here as well. Admission is $50, but they probably have a monthly free day or special events or something. They got some fossils inside and a space exhibit with the... Hold on. The Space Shuttle Columbia? This disintegrated re-entering the atmosphere in 2003, killing all 7 on board. Anyway, west of the museum is a cozy little lawn to hang out with your friends. Meet me at our spot. We caught a vibe. The northeast corner is similar, with a little cut bush to get into the museum from the side. Overall, the layout of Pewter City is nice. It's small and it fills the space well. There aren't a lot of people, but they do preserve a sense of natural tranquility with the flower gardens and the rock walls. With my mind distracted by the nice surroundings, I'm able to swallow the demons here and chill. It's got the same nice music as Viridian City as well. I rather enjoy Pewter City. Hold on to that piece, because Cerulean is gonna make you want to take a bath with a toaster. This place is an assault on my senses. I know not everyone is gonna feel the same way about every color combo, but the blue on blue of Cerulean City feels so bad to me. It's claustrophobic and busy. I'm drowning here while also feeling like I'm stuck in a low-budget children's activity book. The city slogan is "A mysterious blue aura surrounds it," and turns out I don't really go for mysterious blue auras. Wild women don't get the blues, but I find that lately I've been crying like a tall child. Also, the music here is very energetic, which feels like a mismatch once you've completed all the content in the area. Misty's gym is kind of nice to revisit because it has a nice warm pool to swim in, but I can ruin it by going surfing in this little square. Yeah, imagine this being your whole life. The other buildings here don't do any better. The bike shop has this common floor pattern we'll see a lot, the chunky linoleum checkers. This flooring comes in 2 intensities. There's white with solid color, which can be really intense to look at, and white with dithered color, which is easier to look at least Cerulean uses the dithered version here. This man's house feels like a Sims 1 starter home where you can't quite afford all your furniture yet, but you lie to yourself and you're like, sure, I can sell some gnomes to afford a bed before midnight. It's kind of nice imagining him an optimistic young gnome craftsman, but in reality, this guy is probably a divorcee whose wife took the Pidgey and all the furniture and left him hanging on by a thread. Be nice to this guy and let him tell you about his badges. He's got a sad, huge yard that's mostly paved over and empty, probably full of beer bottles, and this wide, no-doors meth lab house next door that Cerulean actually has a couple of. They make the city feel unsettling. The best thing Cerulean City has going for it is actually the Rocket crime scene house because it's got some soul to it. It has several unique tiles they made just for here, like this overturned tree and the table with a chunk broken out of it. There is one tiny little pleasant spot beyond the hedgerow south of town. It's mostly nice just for giving me a break from the suffocating blueness because the colors open up a little bit down here. It's that heavy, sick, close blue, not helped by the creepy meth shacks, and that divorcee's sad empty house that leaves Cerulean City pretty tough for me to stomach. I don't like it. Ooh boy, Vermilion City's music gets me going. It's this energetic march unique to Vermilion City with a seafaring vibe to it. We're met with a lighter color scheme, the soothing sea waves, and this bald man walking around to add some life to the scene. It's a good start. My man is still up here working on his construction project with his Machop tamping the ground for him. We love a construction project. It's future-oriented. Aspirational. Vermilion City is called the Port of Exquisite Sunsets. Have you ever in your mind dreamed as far as a fire in the ocean? Sunsets are beautiful, but they do have that little tinge of finality and farewells. I feel like in warm weather, sunsets are happier, and Vermilion is probably nice most of the year because it is a cruise port. The Pokemon fan club is still going strong, and it does have post-game utility since the director will print photos of your Pokemon to your Game Boy printer that we definitely all have. This police officer anchors the center of town, asking after the Squirtle that we received and boxed forever ago. But what makes me feel sad in Vermilion City is the missing SS Anne. The harbor is empty, and we're not allowed in, even to fish. The SS Anne will be gone for a whole year, which gets me thinking about time passing and how long a year is. Combine that with the setting sun and yeah, I struggle ranking Vermilion City. It's quite pretty and the music is hype, but if we're talking existential dread, the departed SS Anne makes me feel weirdly sentimental and allows just a touch of clouds on my sunny day. Immediate yes to Lavender Town. The deep purple of Lavender Town really works with the pale blue off color and has me feeling rich and grape flavored. Did anyone else absolutely love children's grape medicine flavor? Both the children's chewable Tylenol, and we had delicious purple Dimetap that tastes a lot like purple Powerade Zero. This is the noble Purple Town, which, yes it is. There's not a lot going on here though. There never was. There's a tiny bit of utility if we give credit to the name raider, whose house doesn't even earn a sign, and I honestly don't give that credit. Mr. Fuji's Pokemon Shelter House is full of life and energy, so that's a little fun to revisit. Then I'm including the Pokemon Tower in my evaluation of Lavender Town because it's fully within the confines, and because Lavender doesn't really have anything else to speak on. The channelers are all still inside, which isn't too out of place because they still have jobs. Are they working? Jobs to do, but some of them say really specific dialogue that only makes sense within the context of their encounter or post-battle lines, so that makes me a little bit sad. The top floor of the Pokemon Tower is where cracks really start to show, though. It is straight up empty without Team Rocket or Mr. Fuji up here. These two statues don't even have epitaphs. We're just surrounded by these industrial cubes with absolutely nothing to look at. It would have been a lot cozier if they at least let it be black around the edges, since we are on top of a tower, but I just feel bad knowing there used to be content here and it will never be replaced. So Lavender Town on the whole is okay. If the video was about having to live here, I might feel different since employment options are going to be limited, but I'm only ranking each place for the impression that it leaves on me. The grape color and the unique music make it pretty easy to tolerate, but there is absolutely nothing happening here, so it is making me a little bit antsy. And here's a real stinker, Celadon City. This is allegedly the city of rainbow dreams, but explain why I only see green then. The way Cerulean suffocated me with blue, Celadon is doing with green. The puke green cloud just spat me out into the hot heartland. I've landed with no chute. Team Rocket grunts are still kicking around the city. Their inability to move on is something that I empathize with, but it is kind of sad. Can I help them? Can they be helped? Maybe I see a little of myself in them wandering around the city, 17 without a purpose or direction. The Pokemon Mansion back entrance is hollow to revisit, but the front entrance has the nice old lady surrounded by Pokemon on the first floor. Then one floor up, this empty apartment with a computer in it next to a bed that's marked as the Game Freak meeting room. There's no door, but this little space could make a cozy little content creation room. Green screen might be an issue considering the color palette here, but just get a little webcam and some LEDs set up and you're streaming. And the Game Freak president will congratulate you when you complete the Pokédex, so there is some begrudging utility to this building. The department store with its retail therapy and crowds and consumerism is, of course, a powerful inoculation against creeping thoughts of the void. But the dense green floor in here does make me feel physically bad. I have a bit of a New York City vibe here, surrounded by people but feeling isolated. So lonely inside, so busy out there. The rooftop is okay though. The TM girl is permanently thirsty, which is horrific, but the blue sky over the fences is nice to look at. I can feel the breeze and smell springtime flowers up here. This spot is alright. The Game Corner and Prize Corner do offer something to do for entertainment. Just join these retirees gambling away their pensions. Look at them, not a cell phone in sight, just living in the moment. Another harsh floor in here though. The Game Corner dungeon is not great either. The smaller floor tiles in here feel a little better than the chunky ones above, but it gets pretty depressing if you head down to the 4th floor to Giovanni's empty office. It reminds me of a small business having to shutter for bankruptcy. And a lot of Rocket grunts are still just kicking around in here doing absolutely nothing. There are two establishments in Celadon City that add a more realistic feel. The cafe, which actually would be a warm, fun place to get a meal, but also this strange, sterile hotel, which is woefully underdeveloped. It needed an elevator or a fountain or something. I can just smell the cheap carpet and the timeshare meetings. The outskirts of Celadon City offer a weak, carefully formulated apology for the overdeveloped, hectic downtown. There are some green paths, but they're so awkwardly arranged they don't bring the natural warmth that they should. It gives manicured trail in the HOA park that charges non-members a fee to hike there. Overall, the nasty deep green, a lot of overwhelming floor patterns, and the empty feeling of the Rocket hideout kill Celadon pretty hard for me. The dread is real. It's redeemed from the absolute bottom though by having some things to do and a lively NPC culture. I need an intermission after that. Let's take a little cycling road trip to sweat that out. Okay, welcome to Fuchsia City. It seems like the game locked in pale blue as the secondary color in every location, but it's looking at its best here against the soft salmon primary color of Fuchsia City. It's the color scheme of like a 50s diner. It makes me feel like a faded yellow advertisement for hamburgers and lead paint. The city slogan is, "Behold, it's passion pink," which really says nothing and is also untrue. This pink is not really passionate. It's more of a church-going flower perfume pink. The music here is reused from Cerulean, which is a mark against it. I don't care for that ambitious, adventuring music when all the content has been completed. But Fuchsia has such a cozy layout and vibrant townsfolk that I'm feeling good so far. The fishing guru here has one of those depressing Sims 1 divorcee houses, but he also has a cute backyard with jiggling flowers and a small pond. The man has hobbies. The southeast corner of Fuchsia City has a tiny little gap in the fence, which is a quirky misstep that I just love. This is my hole! It was made for me! The Fuchsia Zusha is still operable, and it's fun to revisit the Pokemon and say hello. I like to pretend that I'm tossing herring to feed this Kabuto. What's best about Fuchsia City is how asymmetrical and lived in it all is. They keep the layout compelling with uneven bush rows, cuttable bush shortcuts, and the ground is nicely broken up between jiggly flower patches, grass, and paved pathways. With only the music working against it, soft colors, the fun zoo, and a really comfortable layout, Fuchsia City is probably where I would choose to live to stave off the existential dread that is Kanto in the postgame. Saffron City, the shining golden land of commerce, is next. It's got the same pleasant music of Viridian and Pewter cities. For how big Saffron City is, it's remarkably empty. A couple NPCs mill about the streets, claiming that others should be flocking back with Team Rocket expelled, and yet, where are they? Everyone's gone, and I've been here for too long to face this on my own. Of course, the big scar on the heart of Saffron City is the empty Sylph Co. building. The Rockets are gone from here, unlike the Game Corner, but the Sylph employees are still mostly cowering instead of returning to work. It seems they have not yet activated their return to office mandates. The attendant at the front desk tells us that we can see the president on the 11th floor, which is unhelpful because if we take the elevator to 11, all we get is a dead-end corridor. Yeah, I know he's technically on this floor, but those unhelpful directions are gonna get the administrative assistant fired. The fighting dojo is still open, and this might be a nice place to work out. Exercise is a great way to keep our minds healthy. But look how these men are lined up. Seriously, who chose to put them in this column rather than one over where the arrangement would look much nicer? Saffron suffers bad by having almost no green space. There's a tiny little cozy square north of town, but the color changes if you step into it, so it's technically not really part of Saffron City. And there aren't really any other spaces to enjoy in Saffron. It would be very easy to isolate into a pattern of work, eat, sleep, repeat here, working for the weekend when we're too tired to do anything but recover. While the empty streets and lack of cozy places give Saffron a foundation of hollowness, there is one silver lining, if you imagine it. The emptiness of this urban area does give a bit of that cool urban exploration, zombie movie, Left 4 Dead type vibe that's kind of fun to think about, and at least the light color scheme is tolerable. But that's not enough to redeem the city. You can't spell Saffron without F. Then we're already down to our final city, Cinnabar Island. It's kind of weird ranking Cinnabar last. I never think about it as the final town based on the game route, but it is the last new town that we enter. The colors for Cinnabar are pretty, similar to Fuchsia, but a little more intense with this nice deep pink, and we have friendly seafaring music playing that is unique to Cinnabar Island. Being surrounded by the ocean can get me feeling a little blue with feelings of long voyages and infinity, except with the white cylinder walls closing off space on two sides, Cinnabar does feel a little cozier than it might have. There's a little bit of commerce going on in this little island, but I'll point out that it has 0 private residences. If everybody's commuting in, I bet this place gets real dark and lonely at night after the final ferry back to the mainland. The ruined mansion still sits here, empty, with its couple of trainers milling about eternally. The floor here is that bad solid color checker pattern, but I mind it a little less in red because it gives a nice gingham picnic blanket feel. The research lab is still a flurry of activity, which is energizing and happy for me to see. All 3 of the trade trainers inside do ask for or give updates on the trades we made with them, which is heartwarming. I wish they had a little more to say though if we actually brought their old Pokemon to visit. Did you know that these things that look like smoking pipes are in fact smoking pipes? Clicking on the middle one confirms it's an amber pipe, so we could potentially get some help taking the edge off on Cinnabar Island if Kanto has legalized. I bet Gym Leader Blaine has the hookup. I also like this one little niche tucked in by the lab. It reminds me of this one cold, rainy day as a kid that I tucked my Game Boy into my coat and walked up to play Pokemon Silver in the empty baseball dugout at the high school while it rained around me. Like Lavender Town, this place was always kind of empty feeling, so it didn't get much worse than that in the postgame. Nothing particularly drags it down, but all the ground is one texture, and it is just a little bit lifeless without any houses or flowers. The colors and the music are quite nice though. So, how do my Kanto Existential Dread rankings stack up against your own? I found myself really weighing the colors and the layouts of the towns heavily, followed by the tile sets and NPC presence. I decided that a tier list was the best vehicle for presenting my thoughts on this topic, but what I really hope to capture and talk about with this video is just how weird the Generation 1 Pokemon games feel after you beat the Elite Four. The player knows that filling the Pokédex is an option, but there's barely any extrinsic reward for that, so you're just turned loose to wander across an empty world. Maybe you collect some items or battle a trainer you missed the first time, but for the most part, you finished all the content, and the postgame feels really empty. Every later game does a better job than this, with postgame areas to explore, new trainer challenges, and sometimes new storylines. It's just these first-gen Pokemon games that, relatively rarely for the time, don't end the game when you hit credits, but also came in an era where developing a compelling postgame with lots of content was not common either. It feels so strange to realize that you can return to the roof of the Pokemon Tower or the Game Corner dungeon and exist in the empty space. On the one hand, I actually have some respect for allowing the players to do this, but having nobody react to the fact that you're the Pokemon League champion is especially strange. I understand there were probably limitations on manpower, if not cartridge space, but it places Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow in this odd, completed, lonely state until you dive in all over again and start a fresh run. These games just landed at an odd nexus in time where they had the ability to include a postgame, but not the resources to populate it with adequate content the way that we expect nowadays. Thanks very much to my patrons for making this video possible. Y'all allow me to make more experimental videos like this, and I am grateful for the love. And thanks very much to you for watching this video through. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the different video format. I personally just needed to create something a little less brain intense than the gigantic Gen 2 video I made right before this. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will catch you on the flippity flip.